Hey guys, welcome to the second half of the Q&A video. If you've missed the first part, you can find it linked down below. The first part covered some general stuff and the face reveal and all that, so if you're interested in more than just the wrestling stuff, head over to that first video. What is your favorite match? Since I go so long without keeping up with wrestling from time to time, I do have a lot of recency bias, but I'd say an all-time favorite for me for sure is Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair WrestleMania. I've mentioned it in a few videos. I think the storytelling is great. It is an emotional roller coaster. I really do enjoy that match. Like anytime I watch it, I gotta sit and watch the whole thing. Love it. What is your favorite wrestling theme? My favorite wrestling theme song, without a doubt, is Metalingus, the Edge theme song. Metalingus? I don't know how you pronounce it. It's a word that I don't use in my everyday vocabulary. But if you'd like to see a tier list we made of WWE themes, we do have it up on the Patreon for free. It's free content. So check out the Patreon. You can see us. We do a whole tier list of WWE theme songs for like an hour and 40 minutes. Bonus content for free on the Patreon. Who do you want to wrestle at WrestleMania? If I were to wrestle anybody at WrestleMania, it would be Rhea Ripley, and I would lose. I would want her to pin me with the Riptide in front of millions of people so I can brag that I got my back bent by by Rhea Ripley with proof. You cannot stop me. You cannot stop me. The heart wants what the heart wants. What is your favorite exaggerated backstory slash storyline? For me, that's an easy one. It's got to be the Undertaker. That shit is so ludicrous and extra. It's peak for me. I don't think any exaggerated, crazy wrestling backstory is gonna come close to the Undertaker. Like what? My man is like a zombie biker, dark druid, dark lord, wizard guy. Like I don't know. Yeah, nothing's come close to that. Do you own any wrestling merchandise? What would you like to own? I don't currently own any WWE merch, but I would love to start collecting shirts. I think the shirts are like the least offensive thing I can get. As soon as I figure out how to use these damn WWE affiliate links, I'm splurging. I love to get a vintage CM Punk shirt, D-Generation X shirt, Eddie Guerrero shirts, and of course, mommy merch. It is going to flood my room when I'm not a brokey. Unrelated note, I would love to have an authentic Ric Flair robe. What year did I start watching wrestling? Wrestling has always been a part of my life, and I definitely think a lot of my core memories are sitting around an old entertainment system that took up 1/3 of my grandma's living room with my cousins on Fridays, and we would watch SmackDown and immediately try the wrestling moves on each other. So I had to be no older than 4 or 5 years old when I first started getting into it. Me personally, I had to be a youngin'. Who was my favorite wrestler growing up? Back when I was growing up, The Rock and Stone Cold were the coolest guys on the Raw roster, but as a predominantly SmackDown kid, because we didn't have cable during the week, it ended up being Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero and Jeff Hardy as a kid. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Eddie made wrestling so fun to watch, and the hijinks and the shenanigans were it was super unique. And to this day, I don't see anything on the programs or the products that make me think back to Eddie Guerrero outside the move sets. But nah, nothing comes close to Eddie for me, man. That's my guy. That's my dude, 100%. Do you think Brock should have broken the Undertaker streak? If we're being real about this streak, for me, it's a tricky one to book for because on one hand, it's something that the company put attention on. It's a big selling point for the Mania shows, and on the other hand, Father Time is going to be catching up to this performer, The Undertaker, so if we don't pull the trigger on it being broken, he may end up retiring or unable to perform at a high level to make the eventual loss a big deal. And I wouldn't have personally had Brock break the streak at the time, but I also can't recall who on the roster would have been worthy of a push like that after beating him, or who needed that rub. So certain feats like that are what I would call an instant star maker. So if you had someone who you had a lot of faith in and you wanted to make him a star, make him beat the Undertaker at WrestleMania. But who would it have been back then? I can't remember the roster back then. I'm sorry. to to have a feat like that under your belt means there's an unreal level of faith and trust in you, to go further and do something with your career. And I don't know if there were like other monsters back then around aside from Brock to put on that pedestal booking the match, but it could have made somebody else a star or lived down the line. I really have no answers for it. It's rough for me. What got you into wrestling? I have older cousins that were always quoting wrestlers, and they had tons of toys and wrestling games anytime I went over to my grandma's house as a kid, so it rubbed off on me, and I've had like a love and respect for it ever since. If you were a booker, what match would you plan? I would absolutely love a timeline where like Eddie Guerrero was still around against like 2015 or 2016 Seth Rollins or Finn Balor or Daniel Bryan. I think the roof would have been blown off the place. I think that would have been some good ass wrestling. No Mercy or Here Comes the Pain. Both of these fucking games are classics. I think since I'm so used to the modern games, I would have to go back to Here Comes the Pain since it's like more recent. But those Nintendo 64 controllers in my grandma's garage definitely have some blood, sweat, and tears on them. Mostly my tears, but yeah, it's there. Top 5 wrestlers of all time. I can't answer a question like this only because I have so much respect for so many of the guys that are legendary in my book. And then there are categories that I would love to put them in. And some of them just mean so much to me personally because of memories of my family. I'm also heavily skewed towards WWE, so there are guys that I'm just not familiar with at all that might be my cup of tea. I'll throw names out there from performers I love watching in no particular order. But there's Eddie Guerrero, there's Bray Wyatt, there's Shawn Michaels, there's Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, Dolph Ziggler, The Undertaker, Roman Reigns, Rob Van Dam. I can go all day. Top five is impossible for me. Top anything is impossible for me, dude. Like it's rough. It's art. Who was my least favorite wrestler? My least favorite wrestlers are probably the sideshow wrestlers that can't really move around and they're like only there for size or whatever. Like I can't get behind the Great Khali at all. No disrespect to him, because I'm sure he trained hard and all that, but the wrestlers like that are just like bathroom breaks for me. Would I take an insane bump for money? I would. I actually would take an insane bump without needing to be paid for it if it was like to elevate a storyline or something. Out of respect for the business. Like, I definitely wouldn't make it a habit though. The first big bump would be free. But if you want to pay me for it, fuck it, I'll jump off the Hell in the Cell. I'll do it. What is my fondest memory as a wrestling fan? When I was younger, we would all get on the trampoline as kids and put on matches for my uncles and aunts in the backyard. I think it was fascinating that we were like legit selfless for each other and having dramatic kick out moments like we really knew what we were doing and putting each other over. I'll never forget the day I did my first quote unquote moonsault and my older cousin thought it was cool enough that he let me pin him. That was like my biggest memory. Top 5 WrestleManias. You know, I actually don't keep track of the numbers of the WrestleManias off the top of my head, and I'm not too good of a memory bank, but I can definitely tell you matches from them that have stuck with me. Like Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, Michaels versus Flair, Seth cashing in on Roman, Brock beating Taker, and Rhodes finishing his story. Like, for me, I take breaks in between watching wrestling, so like I'll like be watching it like WrestleMania 30 and then won't get back to until like WrestleMania 34 and be like, oh well, I have no idea what just took place. If you could train with any wrestler, who? All right, this is great because we've been watching LFG on Twitch. We do have the his Kennedy uploads of it on Patreon if you guys have missed those, the watch alongs. But it's really cool to see people be trained by like The Undertaker and Bubba Ray and Booker T. I would definitely trust The Undertaker, Bubba Ray, Booker T, or like Kurt Angle. Any of those guys would get me like amazing in the ring, I feel like. In my opinion, what was the worst year to be a wrestling fan? Uh, that's kind of a rough question for me because I don't really like again, I took breaks in between watching wrestling. I would probably dump this on like any one of those PG era years. I definitely wasn't watching at the time, and it was because things were feeling a bit corny and hokey. There are other things that I would have rather spent my time watching personally, but like I can't think of like any single significant event in a year that I was watching that made me go like, oh God, don't even. If I could fix one booking decision, what would it be? Oh my goodness. Everything around the Fiend, man. I'd book him like an absolute menacing monster. No cells, squashing, the whole nine. I think coming up with a gimmick as over as that one needs to be rewarded like no other, man. I think he needed to be handled way differently because for how much they had him losing his stuff before turning into the Fiend, that pay that man back in something, dude. Having the Fiend get cooked by Goldberg out of nowhere, oh, man. I still get annoyed to this day thinking about it. If I were a wrestler, what would my name be? It would definitely be CrateWraith, or the Phantom, or the Ghost, or the Revenant. Anything ghost related. Man, stop playing. Also, WWE 2K25. If you guys want content from that game, let me know. What is your finisher? In real life, the most I could probably get away with is like a spear or like a running knee or like a super kick, which I'm okay with. In the game, it's something called the spear. I love a good spear. The spear is amazing. I just like the way it looks. I think if it's a cell where both people are just on the floor for a second and you can pop back up and the other person is down, ooh, I love it. Have you ever been to a show in person? I have not, but I would absolutely love to go. I'd like for my first show to be a WrestleMania or something, and I want to sit right next to the green shirt guy so you guys can see me on camera. I would definitely sit right next to green shirt guy and be like, hey, I'm on to you. Which wrestler do you want to see join WWE and why? Okay, so I would love to see Kenny Omega join WWE because I've heard such good things about him, and from what I've seen of his in-ring work, he's amazing. I also think the product is a bit safer than what he usually works, so we can enjoy his work for a longer time. I know that's something kind of a weenie thing to say, but I worry about these guys a lot because they'll do like insane spots and they'll have histories of like these wild matches, but like I don't know how much of their careers they're shaving off from one of these things, right? And the last thing I want to see is someone like really hurt themselves in the ring. That's always the worst feeling for me. So I would like to see Kenny Omega in WWE. What is your favorite wrestling figure? I had this very old Ken Shamrock toy that I used to bring with me everywhere. I used to cheat for him. Like he's beaten Superman, Spider-Man, Goku, and the Hulk. I used to love him. It was a Ken Shamrock figure with like these bright blue, no, it was like dark blue jean shorts and a black t-shirt. And he had these fingerless gloves on. I don't know what happened to it, but I used to love that toy. What is my favorite move to watch get delivered? I love a good super kick. And that means it's got to be one of those super kicks that like isn't just like splashed out in the middle of the match. Like everyone has like a super kick on the damn moveset now with the leg slap. Like no, I need the super kick that is like it hits and then both superstars fucking crumple over, like they both fall down on top of each other into a heap. I love those super kicks. I need those. Those are my favorite. Sweet chin music, everything like that. I love them. And of course, a spear. When did I get into Japanese wrestling? Two channels definitely made me appreciate what goes on in Japanese wrestling, and they are both really cool fellas. One is Super Eye Patch Wolf, and the other is Napoleon Bonaparte. I think Japanese wrestling is phenomenal, and it's really crazy to see how hard these guys hit each other and how creative the offense is. And it's even more dope to see wrestlers that I'm familiar with change up their styles in Japan, or like go over there and sharpen how they are in the ring because they have to adapt it to the Japanese style, which is like a lot more stiff, a lot more hard hitting, a lot more impactful. I love it. But yeah, I definitely do have an appreciation for Japanese wrestling, and those fellas definitely get my vote. So if you made it all the way through this video, if this was the second half of the Q&A video, thank you guys for participating. I know it's no, it took a while for me to get this one out, this little second piece here, but we did it, and I'm happy. If you guys would like additional bonus content, you can check out the second channel here on YouTube. And if you like content that we can't upload to YouTube because of the copyright system and YouTube being kind of well, I guess WWE and the other wrestling promotions being kind of protective of their stuff. I do have a Patreon that has a free tier that you can join, and you can check out all the bonus content there. So you'll see like the movie watch-alongs, we have tier list videos, we have all sorts of other stuff going on the Patreon that you can check out for free. And if you'd like to support a little bit further than that, there are tiers that you can pay for little perks and bonuses. But thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and I'll be seeing you in the next video if we both make it there. Bye-bye now.